Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to our first Subscribe, Retain, and Scale series. This afternoon, I'm delighted to co host this session with three of the finest names in the industry: Ryan Forster from Recharge, Rob Sayles from Rob Sayles Consultancy, and you'll hear more about Rob in a minute, and Harry Willis from Blueprint. Guys, before I start, just some quick intros. Ryan, I'll start with you. Just a couple of minutes about you and the business, please.
Yeah, cheers, Nathan. Delighted to be here today. Thanks for the invite, much appreciated, and looking forward to the chat. So, Ryan Forster. I'm partner manager at Recharge Payments. I'm in London, UK. For anyone who isn't aware of Recharge, with a leading subscription platform within Shopify, now further afield in general in e-commerce. We power 20,000 stores, 50 million subscribers using the platform daily and monthly, and process billions of dollars per annum. I'm looking forward to kind of teaching you more about subscriptions and discussing more about the ins and outs of subscription programs today and retention. And I'll pass over.
Right, absolutely perfect. Thank you. Rob, I'll come to you next, but before I do, just a bit of housekeeping. Obviously, the storm is going ballistic here in the UK, so if you hear dogs screaming or whatever, that's just part and parcel of today's session, okay? And if internet drops out, etc., we'll do our best to get back as quickly as possible. But all in all, hopefully, unless the roof comes off, we should be absolutely fine. Rob, I'm going to come to you next.
Yeah, so I'm Rob Sayles. I run a consulting business that helps agencies and other business founders with scaling and growth. I also run an agency that works with clients across the globe, particularly in the e-com space, around client retention and growth. We've worked with a lot of big names, a lot of big international names, multi-million-dollar companies. For me, it's all about the human interaction and the experience. And I think that's probably a critical key to client retention as well as technology.
Perfect. And finally, last but not least, Harry from Blueprint. Please tell us a little bit more.
Thanks, Nathan. Happy to be here with you guys. So I'm the partnerships lead at Blueprint. We're the customer experience engine for D2C brands. We focus on the entire customer journey post-purchase. So that means we're generally working in adding subscription flexibility, providing an incredible experience there, driving people from first to second orders and beyond through smart replenishments and cross-sells, and then gathering all important customer feedback to ultimately just improve your customer experience generally. Working with some of the biggest D2Cs worldwide, brands like Face Theory, Misfits, Wild Nutrition, these kind of brands tends to be in the replenishable space, but now moving a bit out to fashion as well. So looking forward to sharing some ideas with you guys.
Absolutely love it. As you can see, folks, we've got three of the brightest minds in the industry. For the next 45 minutes, we're going to be asking them questions. Some have been pre-submitted, and so we'll start with those. If you do have any questions as we go, now is your chance to access these people free for you live here on LinkedIn. So please chuck your questions in the comments, and I will do my very best to get to as many as I possibly can. But gents, let's get started and dive in. The first thing I want to talk about is let's start really broad. I mean, we all know the importance of customer retention. We've all seen the stats about how it's so much easier to retain a customer than acquiring a brand new one. But this still is not the go-to strategy for everyone. Why is that? And Harry, I'm going to start with you on this. Retention, we all know, is easier than acquiring new people, yet still we get excited by this new and shiny over here. Why?
Yeah, I mean, the stats there are pretty crazy. It's like 6 times more cost efficient to retain a customer than it is to acquire a new one. But I think for the longest time, well, for like the last decade, Facebook ads have been so cheap that generally that's been the model when it comes to firstly just scaling a brand. And then these brands are often being VC backed very quickly. There's immediately pressure to carry on that growth. And then when it comes to retention, a lot of the time that has just been through retargeting people with ads, and that's been a very easy win. As the price of those ads is now going up, it means that turning towards retention is just becoming more and more important. And so that's where plays like moving people from first to second order, subscriptions to keep people retained, these are all coming more and more important. And also on the agency side, agencies want to have an ongoing relationship with these merchants. So it makes sense to be driving long-term relationships with customers there as well.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Harry, I'll come to you
agree.
next, Rob, on that.
Yeah, I agree with Harry on that. And I think, to your point, I think a lot of agency owners, a lot of business owners were maybe trapped in that psychology of, the sexiness of acquiring a new customer. I think it's a different process, a different mindset to actually build a business around client or customer retention. It's a very different model. Trying to think about how you continuously engage with a client over a period of time and what your product looks like and what the customer experience and the post initial sale experience should actually be. A lot of businesses don't think that through particularly cleverly, and perhaps they don't use the technology in the most appropriate way. And to Harry's point, it's not just Facebook. I mean, traffic costs across channels have been on the increase. And I think because of lockdown, because a lot of more people started using digital than probably ever did before, there's been this big shift in expectation as to what it is that you get as a consumer when you buy something from a digital outlet.
Perfect, Rob. Thank you. Ryan, before I come to you on that, I'm not sure if you've got anything to add, but we've just had a question around migrating from existing platforms. They're currently with another subscription platform. Can they lift and shift and come over to something like a recharge, or actually do they need to start again? If you've got anything to add to the first point, please do so. If not, let's dive into that one.
Yeah, I think we covered the major points there. And I guess when it comes to retention, increasing lifetime value, that is the kind of sole purpose of a subscription program. Essentially, that's what Recharge Talks do every day to every merchant. 20,000 merchants. This is what we're constantly talking about. But great to see we've already got questions in coming around migration.
Yes, nothing yet.
Yes, of course. Yeah, so we have a dedicated migrations team at Recharge. We handle hundreds of migrations per annum. I think nearly 1,000 last year of migrated stores came onto Recharge and there's multiple different scenarios there. So you might be already within the Shopify ecosystem using another vendor subscription or tech vendor using subscriptions. So, or you might already be looking to come onto Shopify from another e-com platform. In both scenarios, you can easily migrate customer bases onto something like Recharge. Essentially, the technical side to it is relatively straightforward. It's just simply about exporting data from existing providers, and we have a team to kind of help navigate that and format data, etc., and then import it into Recharge. The benefit to that is it's a very important piece, actually, because I guess it's like the heart transplant of any business, like bringing over your customer base with the attached revenue. And so we're really conscious of that. We have a very kind of foolproof process that we go through. And the team will essentially ensure that there's no downtime for you as a business. There's no interruption to the consumer. Everything should be relatively smooth, and we can just kick on the new platform. Once it goes live, there shouldn't be any interactions or interruptions.
Perfect, Ryan. Thank you. I've got a couple of questions in the bank from people that have been asking them, but my phone is going nuts. So Harry, I'll try and come to you next around SMS, around retention. Why are you guys using SMS as the key method of retention rather than email or something else?
SMS just as a channel in itself has just much higher attention rates. We tend to see engagement of like 4x what you have via email, but also generally, if you're looking to retain people, you're looking to build relationships with them. Where the relationships come from, it's through two-way comms. So that's what we really specialize in at Blueprint, and not just SMS, but making sure that it is two-way. By using two-way SMS, you can do some really interesting stuff around replenishments and cross-sells. So understanding what people have bought before, sending them an SMS prompt at the right time, for example, to move people from first to second order. But then also on that subscriptions piece, and of course we integrate with Recharge, and we're just adding a whole layer of flexibility on top of that. SMS means you can give people a little heads up for the subscriptions coming, and it can offer some additional flexibility where they can edit, pause, delay a subscription, for example. And it's such a quick channel. People open it usually on average within 6 minutes. So for those moments, it's pretty efficient for that.
6 minutes, bloody hell, it's crazy. Rob, I'm coming to you next. Guys, please, if you can, keep your questions coming via the LinkedIn comments rather than every other form. This is getting a little crazy to manage. But Rob, yeah, I'm just like juggling. I'm like, what? Okay, right, next one. Rob, coming to you. What are the most popular retention techniques and which tend to perform better?
I would say that the most popular retention techniques are really around good customer service, good experience through the entire funnel. If you think about any time that you've bought something, what at the initial point of purchase was the experience actually like? I had an experience recently where I had a really cool thing that I wanted to buy, but I didn't get a confirmation email. I didn't get a confirmation SMS. There was no update on whether something had been processed. When I received the thing, it was damaged. Customer support were really hard to get hold of. Customer retention starts right at that initial point of contact. Like, how is the experience for them? And then you've got to think about how, as per what Harry was mentioning with SMS, how you're then engaging with them to see whether they want to continue something, whether you can upsell something, whether you can cross-sell something, how you communicate that, when you communicate that, the cadence, all of these things help to improve the retention ratio. I mean, ideally, the business, assuming that you have some kind of subscription model or some kind of retention model, it's all about how can you actually keep a customer happy, referring you to other people for as long a period as possible to have an increased lifetime client value. So I would say that it starts at the initial point of purchase and then modeling what you're going to do with that customer to get them into a second, third, fourth, fifth, and ideally continuous purchase pattern.
Rob, perfect. Harry, I'm going to come to you on that just while I do. Ryan, next question is coming to you around the price point of Recharge and where it starts. I believe there's been some changes there. So many people are keen on Recharge. Just reach out to Ryan, connect with him. He'll share all. I'll come to you shortly. But Harry, just finish this one for now. Just going back to that point two. What are the most popular retention techniques, and what do you guys see at Blueprint are performing best?
Yeah, I think, Rob, you've covered some really key elements to the retention journey there, from when someone's purchased something all the way through to trying to bring them into a kind of advocacy stage. I think the one element that's really interesting is just thinking about feedback and where does that kind of sit in that flow. Like, one of the things that we really encourage, whether it's a subscription customer or whether it's just a one-time customer, we have like post-order feedback messages. So let's say 2 weeks after the order, you might receive an SMS that comes through and says, "Hey, I'm Harry, I'm the founder of the company. Here's a picture of me at the factory where I dispatched your parcel a couple of weeks ago. Please let me know what you thought of the experience, because it would mean the world to me if we can just make it better for the next customer." When you start treating people like that, then, like in your example, Rob, where you were just really underwhelmed with the customer experience there, if you can feed that straight back to the team, granted, maybe it's not actually going back to the founder, it's going to their team, and they can take those insights and they can turn it into better led product decisions. Ultimately, it means you can kind of plug those gaps in the end-to-end retention journey generally. And I think when it comes to subscriptions, there's so many elements to it when it comes to the cadence, when it comes to what people are ordering on subscription, when it comes to any different element you can imagine. If you can ask people for their genuine one-on-one feedback via a channel where they're very casual and open to just having a quick chat with you, if you can gather feedback and pain points around that, it means that you can make some big improvements to that journey generally.
Thank you, Harry. Ryan, coming to you, it seems like you invited all your friends and family on as well, because we're getting loads of love for Recharge. Ed very kindly says, "Love the Recharge migration services. You've got a great team." So thank you, Ed. I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. Ryan, coming to you around price point, I believe that Recharge has shifted the model slightly, and now there's a slightly different price point. So perhaps you could share that.
Yeah, and thanks, Ed, as well. Appreciate that. I promise you this isn't queued. There was, in November 2020, everyone will know, within the Shopify ecosystem, Shopify changed its rules and terms and conditions and released new APIs for subscriptions. It kind of changed the landscape a little bit. This meant that now all transactions were being managed by the Shopify checkout integration, which was a big move after 6-7 years in business using a separate checkout integration on Recharge. And essentially what that also did at the same time was open up a load of new APIs, subscription APIs, that allowed other vendors to build to subscriptions on, to build an app out for subscriptions. So we saw a rise of new, and you'd all have seen them. There's a number of new subscription vendors now in the ecosystem, which is great. That's what Shopify's strength is, really, is that competitive nature between the ecosystem. And so there was a bit of strategy from our price point. Obviously, we wanted to make sure that price point wasn't a barrier for a lot of our merchants. So we've always had a standard and a kind of pro plan, like most. There's always a tiered offering. Our standard plan used to have a monthly store fee and then a transaction fee, and then our pro plan had it gives you better product offering in terms like developer tools, analytics, API call rates, etc. It's just an enterprise level, I guess you would call it. We used to charge a monthly fee on the standard. We've wiped that store fee away, so it's actually just completely free to get started on Recharge. It won't cost you anything to install the app, set up your products, directly from your Shopify store, publish the widget, and get going. It can be that quick, particularly for new stores who are just looking to roll out and maybe dip their toe in the water, who are new to subscriptions. You can get up and running for free. And then essentially there's just transaction fees off the back of that as soon as you start processing. The pro plan is, like I said, is that step up in terms of overall offering. It offers better flexibility. It's the foundation for scaling any subscription business on our pro plan, with the likes of our theme editor for the customer portal, like custom domain names, enhanced analytics is a great solid feature there. We also have a new enterprise contract kind of agreement as well, which is for those businesses who are either operating at scale already on subscriptions, or who are moving into subscriptions for the first time and have done research into the product and have forecasting. They know what their forecast looks like in terms of monthly recurring revenue over the set period. Then we can actually look at offering a more of a contract based offering. So sign up to kind of 12 to 24 to 36 months and work out a usage commitment there.
Perfect. Ryan, thank you. I'll be coming back to you shortly around a skincare business that has got a question. Before I do that, Paul Wilson, great to see you. Paul from OpenU, a great platform for collecting kind of customer reviews and that kind of thing. Great to see you here. And he says, great advice, Harry. Customers love having access to the CEO. Thank you, Paul. So, Harry, coming to you next with a question around measuring the value of customer retention. How do you attribute that to your retention tactics?
Generally the North Star when it comes to retention is, and I believe should always be, lifetime value. Some of the things that you're going to want to affect there is things like churn reduction. So the more that you can give people flexibility, especially once again when it comes to things like subscriptions, the more you can minimize churn, the more you're going to ultimately extend that lifetime value. Also, when we're looking at things like replenishments and cross sells, there's also the opportunity to increase the average order value, which is also going to play into that lifetime value as well. So that's another area which is pretty interesting. Also worth bearing in mind, things like Net Promoter Score. These are kind of things that when you're collecting feedback or when you're encouraging people into reviews, they're the kind of metrics you can be affecting as well. But ultimately, I think when we're looking at replenishment as a concept, it's always just good to put it all back towards that ultimate lifetime value figure. Perfect.
Harry, Rob, anything to add on that?
Yeah, the other one that we sometimes look at is things like loyalty and referral. Whether there are opportunities with your brand ambassadors, the really happy customers, to actually then free marketing is great, to then share it with their network of people and so on. A way of attributing that can be really important, because you can be getting new customers through the door, but you've not advertised to. They've just simply found out about you from family or friends or somebody else.
Folks, we're going to take a deep dive into a skincare business now, and slightly off. So, but again, we've had a lovely question in around, hey, I've just set up my skincare business in the last 12 to 18 months. We've always used one-off purchases. However, now we would like to start focusing on subscription. Where do I start? Now, as I always say to people, I believe if you drew a circle, it's all well and good bringing the people in, but we've got to retain them. So your Recharge brings them in, your Blueprint retains them, and someone like Rob works to make the wheel go a bit faster. So all in all, we can all have a part to play in this. Ryan, let's start with you. Skincare business looking to go into the world of subscription. Where do they start?
Yeah, great. Thanks. I love this kind of off piece as well. So yeah, we would always advise if it's a starting point, like a phased approach is always a good thing. So getting started is obviously the key piece. I mentioned there that accessibility is really good on Recharge. So you can look to install and get up and running within an hour. You could have a Recharge running on your store. So that isn't really an issue in terms of getting started. I guess really it's the concept, understanding what it is that you want from a subscription program. What products are you looking to offer on a subscription program? Do they lend themselves well? What does the frequency look like? And really understanding the importance that subscriptions is great. It's a really powerful tool. So, at the moment, you're very transactional, one-time products only, one-time purchases only come into your store. So like the cost per acquisition, we've already kind of touched on that. It's becoming more and more expensive and unreliable. And really what Recharge allows you to do is once a customer comes to your store and you hopefully convert them, and instead of being transactional, we now flip that to relationship-based selling. So not only are you going to have this ongoing recurring revenue on a monthly, bi-weekly basis, depending on the frequency, but there's now a lot more opportunity to start engaging with that customer and really starting to build that brand loyalty and that engagement, and with a view to obviously increase lifetime value. So there's a couple of key areas. What you're offering on the storefront, so like personalization, a customized and bespoke storefront for your subscription offering is always a good way to go, but that might take some custom front-end development, potentially with like a quiz flow, for example, something that's natured towards to subscription offering. It can be as simple as a product detail page offering the widget, but typically something that's a little bit more bespoke on the front end works well in engagement. And then secondly, once a customer has become a subscription customer of yours, there are a couple of, we've mentioned a few of these pieces already, but it's really important to start engaging and starting to increase lifetime value. So we have a customer portal on Recharge, which you get access to once you become a subscription customer. From this portal, it's automatically embedded into the Shopify store. It just acts as an extension to the Shopify account section, and it allows you to manage your subscription there. Not only can you easily kind of skip, swap out products, edit products, manage all of your subscriptions directly in that portal. It's also a great way of increasing average order value, so you can add one-time products, you can add subscription products directly in that portal without having to go back through the checkout system. So you can just simply click on products from the product catalog that you're offering and chuck them into your next order. They'll get delivered. We have inbuilt retention strategies into that portal as well. So offering people, if they're looking to cancel out, we can prompt them to, hey, apply a discount code this time, or how about you just skip this month's delivery? And just understanding the platform itself is a really key piece. The integration side to it is going to be a really key piece to leverage in kind of growth and success, particularly around revenue tools, so upsell and cross-sell tools. Communications like ESPs, things like Klaviyo are going to be absolutely fundamental to the success, as well as our loyalty programs. We have we have 42 integrations on Shopify alone. Really harnessing that tech stack is going to be a key piece. So getting started is one thing. It's quite simple. I would definitely advise consulting with an agency partner of Recharge, because we have all the tools, we have all the features, pretty much everything turnkey. But there's a lot to manage and understand. So speaking to someone, like the teams here, like Rob and Nathan, to really understand how what the strategy looks like. If you're not too confident yourself, I would definitely advise speaking to an agency partner who's worked on Recharge in the past. I appreciate that was a long-winded answer, but
if you're in the world of cosmetics, your business has basically been built. I hope that's helpful. Right, I'm going to come to you, Harry, and thank you, Kirsty, Paul, Neil. I'll come to your questions as soon as I can. I'm going to need to lay down after this, but let's go to you, Harry, just in terms of cosmetics business, starting out in the world of subscription, that they're using Recharge, because why on earth wouldn't they? And Ryan's basically told them the dream, and they're going to have a great time. Over to you guys in terms of retention. What do you say? Where do you start?
So our Recharge integration, basically the idea of it is you can add a lot of flexibility on top of your existing subscription through SMS. So essentially what we will do is a few days before your subscription is set to go out, we'll send a quick message saying, hey, your subscription's arriving in a couple of days. Are you all good to receive it this week? Just let us know if you prefer to skip or delay. So people can just skip or delay with a keyword there. If they then want to modify the subscription, which is, let's face it, skip and delay is good, but also there's a lot of other things that are involved with the subscription, as you alluded to there, Ryan. It might be like product combinations, or it might be particular shipment dates. What we can do is we share a little modify link in that SMS, and it means people can click it, and we pop open to a no login web form. And essentially what that means is you have a lot more flexibility and a lot more actions that you can take to have that subscription on your terms. Ultimately, it's worth bearing in mind, when people subscribe to something, they want to subscribe. That's the reason that they took up that subscription, but they want it on their terms as well. So it's really important that you just think of every single scenario, of every single kind of need that the customer might have, and just try and anticipate it by offering them as much flexibility as possible. Once that subscription's come through, then is a really nice moment to just automate a quick check-in with them, like 2 weeks afterwards, saying, hey, founder of the company, just wanted to check that everything's okay with your subscription, just to make sure you're nurturing that relationship. Because if you can just keep people subscribed for a couple of installations, and you give them that amazing experience to start with, you'll see your churn in subscribers just dropping off really nicely.
Harry, thank you. Rob, I'm sure you've got stacks to add here, but I'm going to come to another question, which is from Kirsty. Now, I know that for those that don't know, Rob wears two hats. He's working with clients a lot as well, but he also does some stuff with agencies. And Kirsty's question is, what about a graphic design business? How would you build a subscription around this? And for what it's worth, my thoughts would be around selling in retainers around blocks of hours. So we sell 10 hours a month, 20 hours a month, 40 hours a month. That's a kind of agency subscription in that you're getting a monthly service and you're buying blocks of hours. That might be X amount of social ads or X amount of kind of graphics for the website or whatever. So there's one way of doing it. But I mean, I'm not the king when it comes to growing and scaling agencies. That would be more Rob's bag. So Rob, coming to you on this, how would a graphic design business create a subscription model?
Well, I'll probably start it pretty much around what you said. I mean, the first thing to do with any business strategy is to think about what your core product is and what your audience is. So once you've worked out what core service or product you're actually prepared to put out there to a market, it's then working out, well, what does the audience really need? To your instance, there's a couple of clients who've been working with, agency clients who we've been working with, that do almost exactly this. They do design services. One of them is just purely doing stuff, graphics for TikTok advertisers. So they partner with other agencies and then provide a retained design service to their partner agencies for TikTok advertising. It's a kind of like a white label or outsource model. So you're going to want to think about what kind of graphic services you're actually prepared to provide and who it's going to be for. And then you can obviously frame it and you can start to, build your USP and your funnel strategy and all the rest of it. But yeah, I think you're right, Nathan. A lot of it comes down to operationally as an agency, how much time, I'm kind of talking operations now, but how much available skill set have you got within the agency, and how much of that skill set's time is going to be available to work on retainer versus working on kind of major fixed price projects, assuming that you either contract in or outsource or have a group of people inside the agency that can provide that sort of stuff. Then you're going to be wanting to work out, how can we get a client into ideally a minimum 6-month contract for a service that we provide to them? So it could be working on behalf of that client's customers, providing, bespoke design services, or it could just be doing churn and burn monkey type work, doing, templatized ads for a TikTok agency or something else. A lot of how you structure it and how you approach it will come down to the devil of the details as to exactly what you're prepared to provide and who exactly is it for.
Rob, thank you. I really appreciate that. Coming to you next, Paul just mentioned about a great session yesterday about user adoption. If you know what a customer, the first win looks like, then celebrating that success with your customer is massive help in retaining their subscription. Neil, I'm going to come to Neil next. Now, Neil is a dear friend of ours at Quickfire and a good friend of mine personally, running the e-commerce department at Gerald's, one of East Anglia's finest businesses, and I'm sure many of you have heard of them. He's asked around the average take-up rate on subscription through the platform. Neil, not sure what particular platform, whether that's a question to Ryan or Harry or Rob or myself, but if you could just clarify. But in terms of average take-up rate, subscription versus non-subscription, does anyone have any data in that? Please just jump in, Ryan, Harry, or Rob. Try not to all talk at once. Yeah, go on, Ryan.
Being polite. Average take-up is a hard one to define because obviously we can track every subscription customer and purchase once they become a subscription customer. And we even know once they are a subscription customer, how that compares to one-time products in your store directly. But if they're only converting with one-time products, it can be hard to kind of directly compare. But we've just released a new state of subscription commerce report, which is really interesting and available kind of directly from our website. We've shared it all over socials already. So kind of taking it off on a tangent there, but what we have seen for those merchants that are engaged in subscriptions, from January 21 to January 22, we saw that subscription brands or recharge merchants saw an average growth in overall customers of 31% in that year, which was a 43% growth in average subscriber growth as well year on year. So the adoption is massive year on year, 31% increase just in a 12-month period for those who are already offering subscriptions.
Yeah, it's a tricky one with the stats. I mean, almost going full circle back to the skincare stuff. I think a lot of it comes down to whether you've got a standard one-time purchase and a subscription product that's running in parallel that you can analyze statistically or compare, or whether you're transitioning from a one-time into a subscription. You know, one of the things that I kind of mentioned, looping back onto the skincare stuff, is a lot of it comes down to whether you actually build a head of steam with the audience to get them to want the subscription before it's even launched. That can massively alter the kind of uptick rate on the subscription, because you've got a load of people sat on a wait list demanding stuff before you even open the floodgates to it.
Guys, thank you. Harry, I'm coming to you next. And folks, I can assure you I'm getting through these questions as quickly as possible. We'll after this one, Harry, we'll just take a quick drink so I can not die in the process. And then we'll go through for another half hour. We're already halfway through, guys. Some amazing tips so far. Please do keep your questions coming. But Harry, coming to you around data. Every business has their own data. How do you practically use that to build up a picture to improve dying already, to improve customer retention?
I think that really ties in a bit with what you've just said, Rob, about like building anticipation around a subscription. And the way that we look at the customer journey is that like subscriptions, the journey for that actually starts all the way at the very first purchase. And what a lot of people don't necessarily have a huge amount of data on is, okay, we can see what products are being purchased, but what we're not often seeing as from a merchant perspective is how many times they're being repurchased after that, and for how many times, and in terms of like cross sells, which products are being combined. So that's one of the things that we've been working on at Blueprint. We have what we call a recommendations engine, and essentially what this does for you is the moment you connect it with your Shopify, it just scans back through all of your historic Shopify data to uncover your most commonly replenished products. So if you're a store with like 2 or 3 years worth of data, you can plug that in, we process it quickly, and it will say, okay, this is your top replenished product. It's getting replenished 55% of the time after 74 days. Why not set a replenishment prompt around that? So that's a way that you can directly be looking at your history in order to form those kind of user behaviors and encourage them. And then that lays the perfect foundation for launching a subscription. If you know that that particular product is the one that everyone's coming to on a monthly or bi-monthly basis to repurchase, you know the cadence which you should set that subscription at, but you also know which product to focus on as well. Because yeah, when you're thinking about getting people to that holy grail of the subscription, you want to make sure that it's aligned with the needs and the previous kind of behaviors that your customers have shown in the past.
Yeah.
Thank you, Harry. Guys, just quickly, I've got a question from Neil expanding on his point earlier, saying specifically, what's the chances of someone subscribing across recharge? I'm guessing it's quite small compared to one-time purchase, but they'll be quite valuable. My experience of subscription as a retention model has to be good, as people can ditch it after a couple of cycles and then need to be re-engaged. Also, I expect many only take up a subscription for an offer such as free delivery or a small discount or some incentive to get them in, and then they unsubscribe fairly quickly. Neil, I hope that is kind of articulated right. And Ryan, I'll come to you on that.
Yeah, so like you're saying, it's that data understanding try to work out how many customers are buying one time directly in comparison to subscriptions. It's going to be hard for us to kind of get that data straight away. But I would say that prevention over cure. So with a subscription offering, the most successful, there's kind of 3 common success factors to our most successful merchants. Firstly is how to cultivate loyalty. It's not just about offering a discount. Our most successful subscription brands are actually they have a great product, of course, they have a great brand, but they're actually typically tied to like a greater mission. There is something bigger and wider than what they're doing that's just product based. So if you look at someone like Wild Deodorant, for example, they're a deodorant toiletry company. You may be aware of them. They have some great ethics and ethos around sustainability and the products that they use and making sure that there's no waste. They have an aluminium case. The actual refills that you get are biodegradable, but they also make sure that there's a greater mission there. So they're actually planting trees for every sale. They've built up this kind of tribe mentality and loyalty within their customer base. They even have meetups at their office, which hundreds of people attend each year. And so it's not just about the product or the discount by any means. People like subscriptions because they like that. They like the reliability of receiving a product each month. They know that they're going to get that product. And typically, D2C brands that do really well aren't available on the high street. These products are exclusively available typically online via Shopify store. So really, I understand there might be a bit of skepticism about how to engage customers, but I think rather than just basing it on a discount, if you can start to engage people around what your greater mission is and what you're actually there to do as a business, rather than just product, is a key piece. I mentioned those 3 factors, so I'll just finish that off quickly. Also, like cultivating loyalty is the first piece. Really understanding your tech stack and utilizing tech stack is a really key piece to build up the overall success of your subscription program. I mentioned already, but using things like Klaviyo for ESP, using like Gorgeous for your help desk, all build part of this really strong picture that you just won't get on one-time product purchases only. And Harry's mentioned previously as well, like flexibility. So getting someone into a subscription program, depending on what you're offering, can be relatively easy, but the key piece is really keeping them on board, and flexibility is probably the biggest influencing factor when it comes to keeping people on board long term. So things like the ability to swap products, the ability to skip months of deliveries if you have a backlog or you just don't want it this month. If you go on a holiday and you want to pause, that all builds this picture of what a successful merchant looks like on Recharge. So of course, prevention over cure, getting the product right and the brand right is really, really important. But we see businesses growing year on year. Their retention rates are growing higher and higher. Their customer base is growing 30 to 40% year on year. So subscriptions are very popular. People like them, and we're seeing people stay on them for longer.
Right, thank you. And Neil, I hope that helps. Go on, Rob. Yeah.
I think a lot of it comes down to good product design. And by that, I mean, this idea of discounting stuff works well. Now, if you think about how many of us have got a subscription to Sky or BT or an internet service provider or something else, and then you see an offer being advertised on the TV where new customers get a discount, that really, sorry, LinkedIn, but that pisses me off. I should be, as a loyal paying customer, getting something extra, not every new person getting a discount. You got to think about your product design and actually whether you discount down or bonus stack up and how you build that loyalty into the system. And then everything else that Ryan's mentioned around how you're retaining people and how you're treating them and how you're communicating with them and how flexible the system is. All of us have got subscriptions that hit our front doors, whether it's from Amazon or something else. Gusto and HelloFresh are other great examples of subscription-based systems. Interestingly, something like that is almost based on scarcity. If you don't order the next month's worth of food, some of the food won't be available, so you ain't going to end up with beans on toast. So again, it comes down to really clever product design and then how it's actually delivered to the customer and how that customer experience is from the point of first sale.
Rob, thank you. I'm coming straight back to you on the next point, which is how important are customer personas in the world of retention? How do you create these using real-world data?
Oh, that's a biggie, my friend. My word.
Get yourself comfortable.
God, that's a strategic question. A lot of it comes down to what you don't know. I think a lot of businesses make the mistake that they think that they understand who their audience actually is, and they might be missing a trick. I was reading and watching a YouTube video. Great example of how Subaru in the 80s and 90s, I'm a big petrol head, how they actually broke into the US market by working with this tiny little agency that identified that actually it was the lesbian community that were buying most of their cars, but they'd never bothered advertising to those before. So a lot of it comes down to good customer research and not just assuming that you know who your audience actually is. You can get that stuff by working with a partner research agency. You can get stuff from government websites. You can go out there and trawl the forums. You can do, surveys and quizzes and polls against your existing audience networks, all of that kind of stuff. But you want to be interrogating the data to look for patterns of personal traits and behaviors that allow you to build up several different avatars, and then you can work out like a pick and mix version of some of your subscription models to suit certain people. Skincare thing, we worked with a company a couple of years ago, and what we realized was that the subscription box that we put together was great, but the churn rate was quite high. And what it turned out to be was that the company had assumed that certain products would be kind of used up by a certain point in time, and therefore we'd need to replenish them. Well, in actual fact, the women that were using these products weren't using running out of them for like another 2 or 3 months. Once we started digging into that data and working out the patterns of usage and replenishment, and then creating some pick and mix options, suddenly the subscriptions exploded. And it's only from looking at the data and understanding the behavior of the audience that you can build a better business.
Rob, thank you. Chaps, we're going to play a little game and mix things up. I appreciate we want to move away from just a standard Q&A. And this game is a round robin around sectors that are suitable for subscription and retention. So cosmetics might be one of them. I'm going to give you 5 or 10 seconds to think about yours. If the person before you said it, you can't say it. Okay, then we're going to go around a couple of rounds. Normally this is a drinking game, but we haven't got beers on tap. But Ryan, I'm going to start with you. Go to Harry, go to Rob, and we'll go round to see who last is remaining. So Ryan, starting with you, a sector that's rife or perfect for subscription and retention. Go.
Can I be as generic as food and beverage?
Oh,
That's
you've
too-
gone big. You've rolled out a lot of people. We'll see how much we go, but let's try and be specific. Otherwise, the game will be over in seconds. Harry, let's come to you.
Pets.
Pets, good. Rob.
I'm going to dive deeper into both of those and say dog food and poo bags.
Oh, Ryan.
I'll go. Okay, I won't keep it as generic. Cocktail making. That's
Very good. Harry.
Health and wellness.
Very good. Rob.
Vapes.
Very good. Guys, can we get one more round out of us? Ryan.
Yeah, CBD products.
Oh, Harry.
Fashion can be.
Fine. Okay. Rob.
According to our family cupboard, any sort of cordial juices.
Very good. Guys, the bit I'm trying to show you all is that actually almost any sector can be relevant for subscription and retention. We've just named 9 of the most random sectors off the cuff, just like that. If you think outside the box, there are so many ways in which your industry may be able to tap into subscription and retention. So don't think, oh, what a shame, I'm just not in a section that's rife for disruption. I can't use subscription or retention. Think about it bigger picture. There may be something that you can tap into that model. Now, guys, building on that, another question's coming around. What are the best sectors for subscription and retention? Just one each of you here. Certainly, Ryan, from your experience, a lot of the kind of recharge customers, is there a sector that really dominates?
Yeah, good question. So our most popular vertical in terms of merchant count is food and beverage. But I guess from what's important to think about when it comes to subscriptions is the subscription model. So regardless of what vertical you're in, there are 3 subscription models. And I'll make this quick, so I know we're going around the room here, but we break them down into replenishment, curation, and access. So replenishment and curation are for physical products, and they're fairly self-explanatory. Replenishment is the toiletry, the consumable good that you need to be delivered to your house on a regular basis, like a monthly product. Typically, toiletries is a very good sector for that. So that's replenishment, and that's that typical subscribe and save. You've seen it on the product page. You do one-time purchase or subscribe and save to this product. We're very used to that. There's also an extension to that, which might be like a bundling product where you could bundle 6 products together and get that delivered regularly. Curation is something like you might have seen Craft Gin Club in the UK, or beauty boxes, where it's actually the merchant who has the domain expertise. You're subscribed to a box of goods, and you don't necessarily know what's coming into that box each month. You probably know the theme of it, but it allows you to have, as a merchant, gives you great flexibility around what products you can put into it. It's also good for gifting. So that's curation. The third, and the majority of merchants fall into those 2 categories. The third and more of an emerging model for subscriptions is access, which boils down to membership programs, essentially. And just to keep it really high level, Amazon Prime is the most notorious access model that there is. I'm not subscribing to a product each month, but for those non-traditional subscription verticals that have products that don't lend themselves well to a monthly subscription, like a fashion house who sells jeans, I don't want to sell my jeans on a monthly subscription, but I might want to start to harness recurring revenue. So I can start to offer membership programs and perks to my customers. They might pay a monthly or annual fee, and for that they get access to free next day delivery. They might get access to discount store wide or on product ranges. They might get access to product lines that only members get, like VIP membership programs. So that's how I would think about subscriptions and what vertical you're in. It's around what model fits you best, because I'm pretty sure every vertical and every product can align themselves to a subscription model.
Thank you, Ryan. Harry, just very quickly, typical or the most popular section for retention?
What, in terms of like
In
vertical?
terms of sector or vertical. So, for example, cosmetics, we find are using Blueprint more than food and bev or whatever it's going to be.
Yeah, we've uncovered quite a niche within food and beverage, which is like non-alcoholic fizzy drinks, like low calorie, low sugar, these kind of seltzers and hard seltzers. There's lots of those in the scaling brand space at the moment. So yeah, that's been an area that's been pretty high growth for us at the moment.
Very good. Guys, we've got 15 minutes left. This is the next part of the show, which is quick fire questions. I hope you like what I've done there. But ideally, next 15 minutes, as much value as we possibly can. In the next 15 minutes, I'm going to whiz through. If I raise my hand, it is a polite way of me telling you to shut up so we can get to the next question, okay? Because we've got to try and get as many as we possibly can. So, next one, we're just going to go around channels. Very quick game, 2 rounds. What channels can we reach our customers on in terms of subscription or retention? Ryan, I'm going to start with you. What channel could we reach people through in terms of subscribe to this product or this is a way to retain? Go.
Yeah, I would say ESP is a great. We have a fantastic integration with Klaviyo, and it's our most popular integration. So I'd highly recommend utilizing that if you're on a subscription program already on Recharge, or if you're looking to. First step would be integrate Recharge. Second step would be engage Klaviyo. It allows you not only to build complex flows from win backs to increase average order value by upselling and cross-selling, but also has a feature called Quick Actions, which is essentially you can embed a link into the email, which allow you to make one-click action. So if you want to swap this month's delivery, skip this month's delivery, add this one-time product, you can do a one-click from within that email, and it'll automatically update your subscription into Recharge. So that's a very powerful tool and channel.
Perfect. Harry, yourself?
Yeah, I'd say email is the foundation, and then yeah, Blueprint, we're an SMS platform, and it has some incredible qualities just going through SMS, some of which I mentioned earlier. But it can play very well hand in hand with email, and that's something really important to consider as well. It's not a one versus the other. We also integrate with Klaviyo, and so yeah, once people purchase something, send them confirmations through SMS, update them through SMS. And then once we're integrating Recharge and people are starting to subscribe, adding those flexibility layers through two-way SMS as well, and tying that all in through customer services as well. If it's two-way, it means that you can be picking up those support tickets and speaking with people in a way that's really convenient for them.
Very good. Thank you, Harry. Rob, coming to you.
Yeah, about 70% of the clients that I work with actually work in the digital or information product space, which Ryan kind of mentioned before. Social huge for this kind of stuff as well. Whether it's using WhatsApp or whether it's using, private Facebook group, or whether you're on Discord or Circle or whatever, actually having a self-contained cluster of audience with moderators and support and opportunities to do quizzes or private focus groups, any of that sort of stuff is a great way of actually creating two-way communication with people. All of it's going to come down to picking a platform that's most appropriate, one, to you as a business from the point of view of operations, and two, from the point of view of audience, is where they're most comfortable actually sharing ideas or bouncing things around or being available and communicative.
Thank you, Rob. Harry, just coming to you, you touched earlier on fashion being an industry for subscription. I know a lot of our audience have some space in fashion. I believe Blueprint are creating a special product for fashion. Do you want to just share a little bit about what you guys are doing there?
Yeah, the case study that we've been rolling out recently is with The Edit London, who are a high AOV rare sneaker brand, basically. And what they were experiencing generally was that they had a lot of customer services queries and just interest about the product, but because it's so high AOV, like a pair of Yeezys for like £750, obviously you want that kind of experience. If you were in store, there would be someone there to help you through that purchase. SMS can offer that one-on-one kind of nurturing experience that you might get in store or through what we call like an SMS concierge. So that's been a way that we've been helping them to retain their customers and to ultimately close first sales as well. Once people have made that purchase, we then have the purchase data because we're integrated obviously with Shopify. And so we can then understand what the best cross-sell opportunities might be. And then you can get into all sorts of interesting stuff around sneaker drops via SMS broadcast, those kind of things where you need to be there fast, that's where SMS comes in really useful. If it's an on sale for something which is really scarce, and you need to make sure that you're there at that right time to make the purchase, otherwise you're going to miss it, it's the perfect moment to use a high attention channel like SMS.
Harry, fabulous. Thank you. Rob, I'm going to come to you next, just really around loyalty programs. Now, we personally are huge advocates for whether it be Yotpo or Loyalty Line or anyone in that space. There's quite a few there. But the question has come in around using loyalty for retention. What's your take on this?
Well, loyalty is absolutely huge. As I say, having brand ambassadors attached to your business is probably the cheapest form of marketing that you're ever going to get, because they're talking about you to other people. But when it comes down to how you apply loyalty techniques to your retention strategy, you're going to want to think about whether it's digital, how timely it is, whether it's physical. There's all sorts of different things that you could do depending on the product and the market that you're actually serving to create some kind of loyalty. Do you want to send people something in the post as a thank you? The Gusto stuff that comes to our door every week, every now and again, they just put a bag of sweets in the top of it. Stupid little thing, but my wife absolutely loves it. And now she talks to everybody else about Gusto. Great. That's some brand loyalty. Or is it something, like I mentioned before, rather than being chewed up and annoyed by the whole BT Sky way of doing stuff, you know, are you actually getting something extra? Is there something valuable that's been added on top on a regular basis? Ideally as a bit of a surprise. I mean, that's the beautiful thing with customers. If you surprise them with something positive, they're like, wow, this is amazing. I'm going to stick with you. And suddenly your churn rates start to go down. And suddenly your referral opportunities start to go up. So you're going to want to think a little bit cleverly about how can you tap into emotion? What is something within the business that you can effectively give away for nothing, but generates that sense of brand loyalty, that sense of wanting to stick with this company because I absolutely love them to pieces.
It's an interesting one, Rob, because I see a lot of brands kind of eroding margin by just constantly giving discounts and things like that, as opposed to finding other ways to add value. So, yeah, just a reminder to everyone that it's not all about giving 20% off your first order or anything else. There are other ways to add value and incentivize that is not to make sure that you're not profitable. Ryan, just a quick one in terms of integrations with recharge and loyalty platforms. Do you guys integrate with any loyalty platforms?
Yeah, we do multiple Yotpo, Loyalty Lion, Smileswell, all the kind of typical and available loyalty programs within the Shopify ecosystem. They are absolutely core to the whole LTV story. Really, I've mentioned a couple of times already, but really, harnessing that tech stack from communications, help desk, loyalty are the kind of the usual suspects. It seemed to crop up time and time again, and we do directly integrate with all those apps. And we've even seen them be integrated into like the customer portal area, for example, where you could build up a loyalty tiered scheme, so like a bronze, silver, and gold. And when you get up to that certain level of points, the more you earn. Obviously you go up those tiers of loyalty based on your subscriptions. And then you can actually spend those or redeem those points within the customer portal, which I've seen done nicely a few times. So yeah, the direct integrations, I have 42 across the board. I think 3 or 4 in loyalty alone.
Very good. Thank you, Ryan. Folks, we are coming towards the end of the session, which, as much as it's a relief in terms of my sanity, I've really, really enjoyed today. And I can't thank you enough for getting involved, agreeing to be part of it. And we've built a really nice kind of relationship, the 4 of us, outside of this. So thank you, gents. I've really enjoyed it. Next time we might find ourselves in a pub and do it live or something like that, so we can enjoy a beer as we go. But final question, anyone else got any final questions or comments, please put them in. But the final question that I'm going to choose is come in just before the show. And I thought it was a really interesting one. It's around the idea for a little extra for customers. Rob's mentioned a bag of sweets, a handwritten thank you. Just a little shout out to the team at Scribeless here. I know that those guys are doing these little inserts where it looks like you've handwritten something. And those little attention to detail and extra touches go a really long way. So coming round the table, and I appreciate whoever's last has got a really hard job here. So Ryan, I'm going to start with you. What are your 3 top customer service and retention techniques that you want people to take away from today's session? 3 things to take away.
Oh, did you say right? Sorry, I thought you said Rob.
I did say right. Yeah. Ryan, you're first. Rob's probably last. Unlucky Rob.
Thanks.
Go on, Ryan.
Like you're saying, those small perks can be really nice, and I'll let Rob and Harry talk about kind of those specific pieces that can help, like you're saying, that those small little treasures. But what Recharge is really good for, we have like a workflow tool that allows you to automate a lot of this. So offering something periodically, whether it's at the beginning of the subscription, you might have a box of products, and then maybe at month 3, you're going to offer a free gift. It might be at month 6, you're going to offer an invite to some form of meetup or social. And you can, a really clever way to use the Recharge platform is to actually automate that workflow, so that at those points you can start to automate that whole process. So regardless of what it is that you want to offer, and it's not about offering some product that's going to dip into your margins, but something of a small incentive can go a long way. And again, our most successful merchants are really starting to harness that, where they're just injecting something fun and free to kind of engage and keep that loyalty going. And I like the idea of people getting invited to like socials and events in person at month 6, for example, and building up that tribe and social following.
Very good. Harry, coming to you next, sir.
I'd say, I mean, from my side, I think just the feedback piece is essential. If you can open up two-way dialogue with people, number one, you're going to be gathering feedback about the pain points that they've had, which is always useful to know, because you can just make way more informed decisions about the whole customer journey there. But then on the flip side to that, people that you're having these kind of interactions with, you're also just building affinity with them. So if they've had a connection with the founder, those are the kind of people that's only going to do good things towards your subscription churn rates, for example, because people feel like they're part of the journey. So anything you can do to just make sure that you have that open dialogue with people, make sure that they feel like they can share things with you. And when they do share things with you, just make sure you have people on hand who can reply to them really quickly, and to make them have that short feedback loop around the thought that, okay, it was worth me sharing that, and that's actually been taken on board. If you do make any changes based on the feedback that you're collecting, make sure you circle it back to the people who actually inspired that change. I mean, the other day we were asking merchants what they'd been doing with their customers in this kind of way, and we had one merchant who I think it was from Dave's Brewing, who asked for some feedback from one of their customers in the form of a poem, and they asked it as a joke, and they sent back this gigantic poem. It was like, got to be like a whole paragraph length, and it was just amazing for them to see. That's something they can then share across all of their socials or their LinkedIn. Other people then started sending in poems, and it's these random little moments. They might seem hard to tangibly look at when it comes to ROI, but they have just a massive net effect on the LTV ultimately.
Very good. And Rob, finally from yourself, sir, 3 core takeaways from today's session.
I think, bring it all full circle, clear, frequent communication with people at the point of sale all the way through. Think about experiences that we've all had online. When you get something, a sales order that comes, that you've made, and you get an email straight away, and then the next day you get a tracking thing, and then you get something else, and you get something else, and as Harry's mentioned, maybe a few days after the purchase, you get an automated thing, but it feels like it's coming from a real person that's actually asking whether you like the product, whether you've got any problems with it. Here's different ways that you can get in touch with us. Here's our WhatsApp, here's a mobile number you can use, or you can live chat with us, or whatever. Keeping everything completely open is massively important. Post-sale follow-ups, surveys and feedback, loyalty offers. But I would say the most important thing is, don't forget that your customer is a human being. Have fun. Have a personality. Have fun. Communicate with people. Let them know that you're available. Let them know that you actually care about them. And they will keep subscribing. You will retain them. If your product's great, the experience is great, and you have a personality, we've got to remember that it's a human-to-human interaction that we're having with people over and over again.
Rob, thank you. And what a lovely note to finish on. Ladies and gents, for those that have tuned in today, thank you. I really appreciate you taking the time to join us. To Ryan, to Rob, to Harry, a massive thank you. I know they're all far too modest, but for those who'd like to find out more about Recharge, please go to rechargepayments.com. Reach out to Ryan, and I'm sure you can connect via LinkedIn channels, etc. too. If you're interested in retention, the best point would be blueprint.store. reach out to Harry Willis on LinkedIn, connect, engage. There is an amazing e-commerce community out there waiting to help you as merchants. And finally, to Rob Sayles, robsayles.com. Reach out. He's worked with some of the biggest brands and names in the industry and a real wealth of knowledge. So for now, folks, a massive thank you. It's most unlike me, but with 5 seconds to go, we've gone right up to the hour. So thank you all for listening. I hope you've enjoyed it, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you.
Take care.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.